It started subtly. A flicker in the periphery, a fleeting shadow in the corner of my eye. I dismissed it, attributing it to fatigue, to the long hours spent working from home. But then, the occurrences became more frequent, more insistent. The first truly unsettling incident involved my cat, Jasper. A normally fearless creature, Jasper suddenly froze, his fur on end, staring intently at an empty space in the hallway. His low growl, a sound I'd never heard from him before, sent a chill down my spine. I followed his gaze, but saw nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yet, the air felt thick, heavy, charged with a palpable unease. Days turned into weeks, and the shadows grew bolder. They weren't just fleeting glimpses anymore. They were figures. Tall, gaunt shapes, almost human, but utterly wrong. Their features were indistinct, blurred, like they were constantly shifting, trying to remain just out of focus, just beyond the edge of comprehension. I started to see them everywhere. In the reflection of my darkened computer screen, lurking in the hallway, even briefly glimpsed at the edge of my vision as I slept. Sleep that became a luxury I rarely afforded myself. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind outside, sent icy tendrils of fear snaking down my spine. I found myself constantly checking the shadows, searching for those unsettling figures, half expecting them to be standing over me. Their presence, a suffocating weight in the stillness of the night. One night, I awoke to a feeling of absolute dread. It wasn't a sound or a sight, but a sensation, a chilling presence that pressed down on me, suffocating, paralyzing. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I opened my eyes, and there, silhouetted against the faint moonlight filtering through my window, were two of them. They were taller than any human I'd ever seen, their forms vaguely humanoid, but impossibly elongated, their limbs impossibly thin and skeletal. Their heads were bowed, and I couldn't make out any features, just a deep, inky blackness where their faces should have been. A feeling of utter despair, of absolute, crushing loneliness washed over me. I tried to scream, but no sound came. I was frozen, paralyzed by an unseen force, my breath caught in my throat. They remained there for what felt like an eternity, their presence a suffocating weight, their stillness more terrifying than any movement. Then, as quickly as they appeared, they faded, dissolving into the shadows, leaving behind a lingering chill that seeped into my very bones. I spent the next few days in a daze, the memory of that night etched into my mind, a horrifying tableau playing on repeat. I started researching, desperate for answers, for some explanation of what I was experiencing. I delved into folklore, into documented accounts of similar encounters. I learned about the shadow people, the entities described in countless testimonies across cultures and time periods. The more I learned, the more terrified I became. These weren't just figments of my imagination, not just products of stress or sleep deprivation. These were something else, something ancient, something beyond our understanding, something that existed on the very fringes of reality. The encounters continued, each one more unsettling than the last. Whispers in the dead of night, objects moving on their own, doors opening and closing without explanation. The feeling of being watched, of being studied, became a constant companion. I felt my sanity fraying at the edges, my grip on reality becoming increasingly tenuous. I tried to rationalize it. Stress, sleep deprivation, maybe even a mental breakdown. But deep down, I knew better. The intensity of the fear, the sheer visceral dread, couldn't be explained away so easily. It was real. They were real. I started taking precautions. I slept with the lights on, a small, pathetic attempt to ward off the darkness. I covered my mirrors, fearing what I might see reflected back at me. I even considered moving, but the thought of leaving, of escaping, felt futile. Where could I go? Could I escape them? One evening, while researching online, I stumbled upon a forum dedicated to shadow people encounters. Reading the testimonies of others, people who had experienced the same chilling encounters, brought a strange sense of both relief and horror. Relief that I wasn't alone, horror that this was a shared experience, a phenomenon far more widespread than I could have ever imagined. The accounts were chillingly similar. The tall, gaunt figures, the indistinct features, the feeling of being watched, the paralyzing fear. The descriptions were so similar to my own experiences. It was unsettling. The forum posts described various methods of attempting to deter the shadow people, ranging from prayer and meditation to the use of protective amulets and rituals. Some people reported success, while others, like myself, felt increasingly helpless. I tried several of the suggested methods, but nothing seemed to work. The shadows continued their nightly visits. The whispers grew louder, the presence more insistent. I started to feel like they were testing me, probing my limits, pushing me to the edge of sanity. I began to understand, with a growing sense of dread, that this wasn't just a series of frightening encounters. It was a battle for my very sanity, a fight for my mind, my soul. The shadow people weren't just observing, they were feeding, drawing energy from my fear, from my desperation. The longer I fought, the stronger they became. The most recent encounter was different. It was less about fear and more about acceptance. I felt a strange sense of resignation, a weary acceptance of their presence. They stood there, silent, still, their presence a heavy blanket draped over the room. And for the first time, I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I simply watched them. I whispered their name, a name I had found in the depths of my research, a name that sent shivers down my spine even as I spoke it. The name felt wrong, unnatural, a word that should not exist, yet it resonated with a chilling truth. I whispered it again and again, letting the sound linger in the silence of the room. And then, slowly, they began to fade. They are still here. I know they are. I feel their presence, a constant hum in the background of my life. But they are less intrusive now, less menacing. I am learning to coexist with them, to accept their presence, even if I can't fully understand it. The fear remains, but now it is tempered with a strange, unsettling calm, a chilling quiet, a haunted peace. Perhaps that is the only way to survive. Perhaps that is the only way to truly confront the shadows within my home.